Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're really getting into the weeds on a recent World Cup qualifier.
Yeah, that Ecuador versus Brazil match.
Exactly. The surprisingly goalless draw.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through the match reports, the coverage, trying to piece together what really happened.
Right.
Our mission, basically, is to unpack why it ended 0-0. We want to look at the key moments, what it means for their qualification hopes.
And Ancelotti's debut, too, of course. Carlo Ancelotti managing Brazil. Big story there.
Huge. And look, Brazil, they have this massive reputation, right? So
Yeah.
0-0 feels unexpected.
It does raise questions.
Tell us about where these teams are at and just how tough these CONMEBOL qualifiers really are. Okay, let's get into it.
Well, look, based on the coverage we've seen, it definitely wasn't a classic, was it?
Seems not.
The reports pretty much called it an underwhelming contest.
Right.
Even difficult watch at times.
Yeah.
Which isn't what you usually hope for with these teams.
Ah.
It ended 0-0 at the Banco Pichincha Monumental Stadium. Point shared.
And the report stressed a lack of real chances, especially later on.
Yeah, definitely. A real shortage of those clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities, particularly after halftime, it seems.
Okay, so not exactly end-to-end stuff from the sounds of it.
Not really.
But even in a 0-0, there are always details, moments that matter. What about that first half? The report said it wasn't completely bland,
But not too exciting either, yeah. That's the gist.
So what did stand out in those first 45, according to the coverage?
Well, interestingly, the reports suggest it was actually Ecuador who started, more aggressively.
Oh, okay. At home, setting the tempo.
Exactly. They weren't just sitting back waiting for Brazil. They apparently took a positive approach, tried to push Brazil back.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, there was mention of Minda putting in a decent cross from an early free kick. Brazil's defense had to be alert, and Angulo apparently made a dangerous run into the box from the left, showing that early intent,
And didn't Ecuador have some drama even before kickoff? Something about their keeper.
Ah, yes, good point. A real sort of curveball for them.
What happened?
Their usual starter, Galindez, apparently picked up an issue in the warm-up.
Oh, wow. Last-minute change.
Right, so Valle had to step in. Not ideal preparation.
Not at all. But he handled it okay in that first half.
Seems so, yeah. The reports suggest he was composed enough, dealt with what Brazil threw at him, which maybe wasn't a huge amount early on.
And Ecuador kept pushing after that keeper change?
They did for a bit, yeah. Estupiñán was mentioned, swung in another dangerous free kick cross.
Okay.
Allison apparently came for it, missed the punch, which caused a bit of a scramble.
Right, you don't often see that from Allison.
No. But Brazil got it clear. And there was also a long-range shot from Yeboah mentioned.
And ambitious.
Yeah, ambitious is a good word. Allison handled it easily, but again, it showed Ecuador weren't shy about having a go.
So, Ecuador with the early pressure, testing Brazil a bit. When did Brazil start to, get into the game more offensively?
It seems it took them a little while. The report suggests maybe around the half-hour mark, maybe 33 minutes in. That's when they started moving forward with a bit more purpose, more ease.
And there was one player who really caught the eye for Brazil.
Yeah, the young guy, Estevão, the 18-year-old forward.
Right.
He was highlighted as a real bright spark, causing problems, making things happen with his runs.
Yeah, I saw that mentioned. Didn't he create their best chance? After sort of snatching the ball and weaving through.
That's the one. Led to what the coverage called Brazil's first proper chance.
And this was actually before that 33-minute mark you mentioned, around 22 minutes.
Correct, yeah. So flashes earlier on, even if sustained pressure came later.
Right.
That move ended with Estevão getting the ball towards Richarlison. His shot was blocked.
Okay.
But the rebound fell perfectly for Vinicius Jr.
And that was the big moment of the half.
Seems so. The reports specifically point to Vinny Jr.'s shot being saved by Valle, the replacement keeper.
Wow. So Valle stepped up.
He did. And that save was explicitly called the closest either side got to scoring in the entire first half.
Okay. So despite Ecuador's energy, the clearest chance falls to Brazil, but the substitute keeper makes the stop.
Pretty much sums it up. Yeah. Underscores that underwhelming description, really. The key moment wasn't a goal, it was a save.
How did the second half shape up then? Did things pick up? More attacking intent?
Well, the reports suggest a similar pattern initially. Ecuador started the second half brighter again.
Making Brazil defend.
Yeah, for the opening few minutes. But then, things seemed to really slow down.
How so?
The coverage notes a significant drop in tempo. It became much more of a midfield battle.
Right. Lots of possession-changing hands, but not much penetration.
Exactly. Both defenses looked solid, organized. Neither side could really break the other down consistently.
A stalemate, then. So chances still hard to come by in that second half. Any moments worth highlighting from the reports?
There were a few attempts, yeah, but the reports were quite clear. Nothing you'd call genuinely clear-cut. Not in the second 45. Well, Vinicius Jr. had a moment. Showed some skill near the goal line. Cut it back for Guimarães. Shot block. Didn't trouble the keeper.
Okay. Anyone else?
Casemiro had a shot later on. From the edge of the box after a cutback.
Decent effort.
Apparently. But Valley was alert again.
Yeah.
Got down quickly, made the save.
So Valley had a good game overall, it sounds like.
Definitely seems that way from the reports.
Yep.
And for Ecuador's chances?
Yeah, what about them?
Estupinian was involved again. Put it in a low cross that Allison read well and gathered.
Okay.
And Estupinian himself had a shot from distance later on. Forced Allison into a save.
And Allison dealt with it.
Yeah. Held onto it cleanly, according to the report.
So again, similar to the first half, the moments that stand out involve the keepers.
Precisely. Valley's save on Davini Jr. in the first half may be the biggest moment overall.
Right.
But Allison's save from Estupinian in the second was noted too. They were solid when needed, even if it wasn't constant pressure.
Just reinforcing that idea of attacks struggling to break through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the report was blunt about the second half.
Yeah.
Basically, completely lacking any really clear chances.
Now, substitutions. You always expect them around the hour mark in these kinds of tight games. Did they change anything? Inject some life?
Both managers did ring the changes, yeah, throughout the second half.
Who came on?
Let's see. Ecuador brought on Preciado at halftime for Minda, then Rodriguez and Medina later.
Okay. Brazil brought on Martinelli and Cunha for Estevao and Richarlison. Then Santos and Ferreira came on too.
So fresh legs, different options, but no real impact on the pattern of the game. That's what the report suggests, yeah. The match coverage noted the contest just stayed underwhelming.
Still stuck in that pattern.
Yeah, basically saying, barring last-minute surprises, there wasn't much excitement. The subs just couldn't unlock things.
Sounds like a day where the defenders definitely earned their keep.
It certainly seems that way.
Okay, let's maybe zoom out a bit from the match itself. The bigger picture. World Cup qualification. What does this 0-0 actually mean for the CONMEBOL table?
Right. So after this result, Brazil are sitting in fourth place.
Fourth, okay.
They've got 22 points from 15 games played. Ecuador actually still ahead of them.
Still second.
Yep, second place with 23 points, also from 15 games.
And the qualification setup for 2026 is more generous, isn't it?
It is. The top 6 teams in CONMEBOL go straight to the World Cup.
6 direct spots.
And the 7th place team gets a shot via the Interconfederation playoffs.
So even with a draw here, Brazil are still in a pretty strong position. No panic stations.
No, not at all. The coverage was very clear on that. Despite maybe wanting a win, Brazil remains a firm favorite for direct qualification.
Because of those top 6 spots.
Exactly. A draw away in Ecuador isn't ideal. They missed a chance to maybe climb, but it doesn't really damage their prospects significantly.
And for Ecuador, holding Brazil, getting a point, even at home, that must feel pretty good for them. Keeps them right up there.
Oh, absolutely. A point against Brazil, whatever Brazil's current form, is always valuable in this marathon qualification process.
Helps cement that second place spot for now.
Definitely. Looking ahead, Ecuador play Peru next. Brazil have Paraguay. Both important games, obviously.
Right. Now we have to talk about Carlo Ancelotti.
The debut.
His very first match in charge of Brazil. And the coverage, well, it didn't exactly rave about it, did it?
No, it didn't pull any punches. Phrases like lackluster debut were used.
And not the best of starts.
Yeah. But, importantly, the reports immediately added context.
How so?
By saying, with just one game in, it would be harsh to make any judgments.
Fair enough. One game, tough away trip.
Exactly. It's a tiny sample size.
Oh.
And the coverage also reminded us of things Ancelotti had said beforehand.
Like what?
Like wanting Vinicius Jr. to replicate his Real Madrid form for Brazil.
Yeah.
Use his ability to unsettle defenses.
Which we saw glimpses of maybe, but not consistently.
Right. And Ancelotti also brought Casemiro back into the fold.
After he wasn't used by the previous coach.
Yeah. Ancelotti said he felt Casemiro still had a lot to offer. And maybe his presence in that midfield battle, that second half shot, sort of showed that.
So, okay, the result wasn't sparkling, not the attacking flair maybe associated with Brazil.
Definitely not.
But the context is important. Key players missing, difficult venue, first game for the manager, patience is needed perhaps.
That seems to be the message from the coverage, yeah.
Yeah.
They noted absences like Neymar, Rafinha, big attacking players.
That obviously makes a difference.
Of course. Ancelotti's working with the squad he had for this specific window. A goalless draw away to a solid Ecuador team. It's a tricky start, but doesn't necessarily spell doom long-term.
Yeah, let's try and pull this all together then. We've looked at this 0-0 draw in Ecuador. Reports called it underwhelming, lacking clear chances, especially after the break. Key moments seem to be good goalkeeping volley for Ecuador, Alisson for Brazil on the few real tests they face.
Right. Some bright runs from young Estevao for Brazil early on.
Yeah, and efforts from Vinicius Jr., Casemiro, but nothing finding the net. Qualification-wise, Ecuador stays second, Brazil stays fourth, both still well on track for those direct World Cup spots.
Seems comfortable enough for now.
And it was Ancelotti's debut. Lackluster, according to reports, but with that big caveat, it's only one game. Too early for big conclusions.
Exactly. It needs more time, more games to see how his Brazil will really shape up.
That really covers what the source material told us about the game and the situation around it.
A pretty clear picture, I think.
So, thinking about all that, this deep dive kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it, for you listening?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
Does this 0-0 suggest maybe Brazil, under Ancelotti, might find it tough, breaking down these really organized, stubborn defenses you get in CONMEBOL, especially away from home?
Or was it just, an off day, a difficult venue, maybe just one of those games?
And flip side, for Ecuador, does holding Brazil like this really underline their strength? Does it confirm they're serious contenders, solidifying that second spot?
Lots to think about.
Absolutely. So what stood out to you about this match, or the result, or Ancelotti's start, or anything we've discussed based on the coverage?
We'd genuinely love to hear your perspective on it.
Let us know. Share your thoughts down in the comments section below.
Yeah, get involved in the conversation.
And hey, while you're down there, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and maybe share this with anyone else who might find it interesting.
It all helps us keep doing these deep dives. Thanks for tuning in.